Hello. In this video, I will be playing a second scenario, playing it all the way through as I did in the first. You can check out the first one on a different video. It says the Jabba's Realm campaign for Star Wars Imperial Assault. But before I start a second scenario, we need to figure out what scenario that is and also do some other campaign related between scenario activities. So what I've done is I've created the side mission deck, and I've done this all based upon the instructions in the books. So for the side mission deck, there's the 4 red cards, which are the for the 4 individual characters, rebels, and then there are 4 green cards. There are only 4 that I own because I only own Jabba's Realm and the core campaign. And there are 6 gray side mission cards. And the book says to choose 4 at random out of those. So that's what I've done. I've chosen 4 random. So here are those 12 cards, and what I'm going to do is follow the book's comments. I'm going to shuffle these. I'm going to shuffle these up, and then we'll pick 2 of them, and those will be the side mission choices that we have for the next mission. So let's just take this one and take that one. These others back. So what side missions do we get? A simple task, gray, and generous donation. So both of them are gray. So I'm going to set that aside. We'll decide which to do in a little bit. Probably, right before we set up the scenarios, I'll go ahead and choose one of those. So I've also set up the agenda deck, which has 18 cards in it, 6 sets of 3, just as in the manual, and I own 9 sets of 3, so I had to choose 6 of those 9s. The one that I've chosen not to include are Imperial Industry, Imperial Security Bureau, and For the Right Price. So those are the ones I've chosen not to include, so all the other 6, which means 18 cards, are in there. So we'll go ahead and do that once it's time for the Imperial upgrade. So now we just need to do a couple more steps. One of them is to look at the items. So these are tier 1 items. I've got 15 of these, which means that according to the Jabba's Realm rulebook, we take 8 of those, and those are the ones that the rebels are going to have available to them. So I'm going to shuffle these. Been shuffled, but I'm going to do some more, and so pick 8 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, the others are not available at this time. They might be after the next scenario. So there's one in particular. I've played through these campaigns several times, and I kind of have favorite items and so forth. One in particular is the gun that gives you 2 red, and that's not available this time, so it must still be in that stack. So I'm going to look through these, and I don't actually see anything that the rebels want to purchase. So if you remember, they have 550 credits from the end of scenario 1. There was the 400 just given by the scenario. We had 3 crates, so they're not going to use any of that. So they're going to save their money. I've also gone through, the next step would be to take the cards from the experience, any experience upgrades that the heroes would want. And I've already looked through that, and I've decided for each of the 4 heroes, they're just going to save their experience. They got 2 experience after the last scenario because they won the scenario. Rebels won the scenario. So the rebel upgrade stage is complete. They didn't do anything. The Imperial upgrade is taking these the agenda deck, which again was the 18 cards. We're going to shuffle those, and they get a choice of 4 of them. That's what the book says. Those are the rules. So let's just take this one, and this one, and this one, and that one. So the others get set aside for next time or whatever. So what have we got? So we only have 1 influence point from last scenario, so we can't take anything that costs 2. This one costs 2. Not even going to look at it. This one costs 2. So looking at these ones, no rest for the weary. I don't really like that too much. Imperial Informants. Oh, that's like one of the very best cards strategically for the Imperials. So we're going to take that. So it says, keep this card secret. Well, I'll try to keep it secret from myself, but we'll see how well that works. Play it at the end of a round during any mission. Increase threat by the threat level. Then discard this card or shuffle it back into your agenda deck. We'll be shuffling that back. But anyway, that's really good because increasing threat level means you get more enemies, and more enemies is good for the more Imperial enemies is good for the Imperials. So okay, so then that's done, and I've already looked through the Imperial upgrade for experience, and decided that they don't want to spend their 1 experience on some card that's not that good. They're going to save their experience. So that is all of the between scenario stuff that needs to be done. So I'm going to go ahead and set up. We'll take a little break here. The video is just going to continue right off. We'll splice that, and then I'll set up the second scenario, and I'll choose it and set it up, and then we'll go from there. A side mission, so it doesn't really tie in with the story of the first mission. So we're just going to kind of set that aside. It's a standalone, pretty much. Though we use the same characters, of course. So this is called a simple task. And in this one, the Empire had started to create some sort of formula for battle stimulant, but abandoned the project. And it's an abandoned facility, and the rebels have found intelligence that they can just go in and take the formula, no problem. It's a simple task. So when they get there, they find, well, not so simple. There's some forces around. They're going to need to fight their way in a little bit, and whatever. So what we've got is with side missions like this, what they typically do is they have a setup where, there's initial enemies. In this case, there's 3 stormtroopers. There's 2 elite Trandoshan hunters. So there's very difficult. But what they also do with side missions is, since those can be played at any time during the campaign, when I say any time, they're picked randomly, and then rebels choose one of 2. It could be early in the campaign when the threat level is low and the rebels are not very powerful, or it could be later when the threat level is high. So what they do is they have the Imperial get an additional threat to twice the number of the threat level. So the threat level is 2, so that's just the second scenario. And so what that means is the Imperials can add an additional enemy to the battlefield based upon the threat level. So this particular scenario is very strategic in where you start that out, because that meant 4 threat to spend on an enemy or on an Imperial force. So they could be located, the Imperial could place those the new ones, the optional ones here, in the back here, or in the back over here. Well, strategically, we could, set up something here. Well, then these guys will just hit. It'll just be dead. It's like, what's the point of that? No point. Back here, you could set something up, but then they're going to take a couple of turns to get around the corner, and that's just not good. So what I've chosen to do as the Imperial player is start it right here, and then also chosen a Nexu. Nexu are kind of good for clogging things up, help to stop progress, and also they cause bleeding if they hit successfully for any damage.
They're scary.
And they're scary, yeah, definitely, with those teeth. So we're gonna start them there. So that's a strategic move. Another strategic move is to give the experimental arms to the Trandoshan hunter. They're very tough to kill, so they're going to get advantage of that. The stormtroopers are in a kind of awkward location, and the first turn it remains to be seen whether they can be able to move 4 and then get a decent attack. So we're probably going to do them last, hopefully when the rebels move here. But here's an interesting feature of this particular mission. It's pretty unusual. There's no time limit. The text, the rules don't say anything about you need to complete this by round 7, round 56, or whatever. So now the rebels do want to, get going with the mission, because threat keeps increasing at the end of every round, and so more units get deployed. So you don't want to just lollygag, but there's really not a hurry, which kind of makes it a little bit unique. So what the rebels need to do is they need to interact with this terminal which will open this door. Interacting means just spending an action, and in this case they have to pass a test of either technical or strength. So somebody with decent in one of those will hopefully try that. So that'll open this door. Then they interact with this, open this door. And what I'm telling you here now is just what's revealed in the opening of the scenario. There's nothing hidden about it from the Imperial standpoint. So this terminal would open this, and then all they have to do is interact with this, which contains the formula, and that formula is you know, the storyline thing that's for the battle stimulant. So you interact with that, then whatever hero does that, then the hero can escape back through the entrance, go all the way back, and then win the scenario that way. So that's the goal. So technically, you can just kind of zoom and then get it, but no. Unlimited time limit means, you know, round limit means that we're going to fight off all these enemies as much as we can, so that we can kind of have smooth sailing and we don't need to rush. Okay, so strategically speaking, this is what I've chosen for the rebels to start out with. Somebody has to start in the blue, and then, you know, they do one space around that. And Diala is going to go first because this is a very awkward strategic situation. If somebody kind of rushes in there and starts attacking and whatever, they're probably not going to kill one of these Trandoshan hunters that have 8 health. They'd have to spend a movement and then just do one attack. 8 health, that's out of bounds. So somebody does that, and then woof, they all just attack that you know, hero, and not only wound him, but knock him out. You know, that they could even just totally. So that's something we want to avoid. So what I've chosen is for Diala to go first. So she's going to take her turn and go with movement. 1, 2, 3. She has one more movement left. She's going to use her reach to get an attack. Now, that's why I chose her, because she has reach on her staff. She can attack and then kind of back up a little bit. So we're going to go ahead with that attack. It probably won't do a whole lot of damage. Oh, but she does have precise strike. So when declaring an attack with her weapon, she takes 2 strain, and they don't get to roll a defense die. So the defense die would normally be black. They have special abilities, but those are only on attack, the Trandoshan hunters. So she's going to roll a green and a yellow, and no defense die. Let's see what we get. Attacking this one. Sorry, I should have specified before. So anyway, it's 1, 2, 3. That was a really good roll. Plus 1 for here. That's 4. And she also, her plasteel staff she comes with has stun. So she's got 2 surges there. So she's going to use that one for stun. So I'm going to indicate that this hunter is stunned, which is actually a pretty big benefit. So she does have, I could use a surge to get rid of this instead of doing the extra damage, but we'll do the extra damage. So that's 4 damage and stun. So that was a really good beginning. Can't really hope for any better than that. So she's going to use her last movement point to move here. So I had to think about this ahead of time. Didn't want to start the video and then, what should we do? But I figured it out, and I think that's the best. And then the rebels, the Imperials, I've also kind of figured out what they should do their first turn. They're going to have the Nexu go. They could have these guys go, but that might clog things up here, and then the Nexu might not be able to get an attack. We don't want that. So we want to make sure the Nexu gets their attack. So they have a lot of movement, 6 movement, and they don't care about these red blocking lines or impassable terrain. They just go. They're mobile. That's their one of their abilities. So they have 6 movement points. 1, 2, 3, 4. That gets it in range of this. So it's going to attack that, even though she has some pretty good defense ability. They don't want to just move in and then pounce. They could do that, but let's go with this. So the Nexu is a red and a green die, and she gets a white die. She has the ability to re-roll the white die if she wants to spend a strain. So the Nexu did 1, 2, 3 damage and a surge. The surge will get it pierce 2, so that'll pierce this one block. So that's 3 damage, and bleeding is automatic when doing any damage. So I think that's all we're going to do. So let's do that. So that's 3 damage on Diala. Diala can re-roll this die, but unless she gets the one, there's really not going to be much advantage to it. Don't want to use the strain. So that's 3 damage and bleeding. That's important because bleeding is kind of difficult detriment there.
Is that like a wound?
Bleeding, what it means is that whenever you take an action, you're going to take a strain.
Mm.
So if she doesn't do anything about the bleeding, every time she takes an action, so that's 2 actions per her turn, she's going to take a strain, and that really adds up, and you start taking damage, and then you can't use any of your strain abilities. If you want, you can spend an action to just discard this condition, and then you don't take any more, but you've spent one of your precious actions,
Yeah.
because the actions, you only get 2 per turn, and you really need to clear out the enemies. So, yeah, that was a good question. Thank you. So that was this. Now where does he want to go with his remaining 2 movement points? He's going to stay there. It does 2 things. One is that normally the rebels will want to attack Imperials that have not taken their turn, right? So they can destroy them before they even take their turn, and then that way they don't take as much damage. So it's going to kind of clog up that area so that they just simply can't do that. I mean, they can move around here and whatever, but that's just, so it's going to stay there. It knows it's going to die, or, the Imperial player knows it's going to die, but that's the nature of these forces, I think. It could go back a little, but it can't go all the way back. It only has 2 more movement points. So let's go with that. So then, I forgot to do Diala's token. She's taking her turn. So now who's going to go next? The really only viable option is to get rid of this, hopefully. So Finn can do a Havoc shot, which could get, actually it could get both of them. So I think that's a good plan. Let's see if Finn can move and no, I think the move will be a regular using of the move. Now, one thing about these stormtroopers here, what they would really like to do is move 1, 2, 3, 4, or at least 3, and get a shot. Now, this guy blocks that, but he's probably going to be dead pretty soon anyway. But this guy also blocks that, sort of blocks it, and they can move there, but not there also. Again, one of the goals in this game, the strategies that I like to use, is to avoid the opponent from getting a good turn, good shots. So if we can avoid these stormtroopers from getting good shots by positioning, this guy's stunned, then that would be a good approach. So anyway, Finn is going to go 1, 2. He wants to target this square right here because the blast will do 1 damage around that to each of these. So let's see if that gets it. That does get him in good range. So 1, 2. Doesn't really want to do any other movement. So he wants to get 2 attacks. So let's use up a bunch of strain, hopefully, to get rid of. So he moved 2, and it's 2 strain to do that. So he's not using an action, no movement action. He's going to shoot this Nexu on this particular square. So he goes green and blue. The Nexu's defense is white. And he hopes to just do some damage so he can do a blast, which will also get some on them. So let's go ahead with that. Well, the Nexu took his turn. I didn't indicate that. Oh, wow. So the Nexu got 1 evade, which, while defending, apply 1 block to the defense results for each evade result. So they do get 1 block, but it's 4 damage. And the range, as you can see, is good. 4 plus 3 is plenty of range. So that's 3 damage on the Nexu. So we're gonna start with that. 1, 2, 3. And he's going to spend 1 strain, get 1 strain, in order to do blast, which will do 1 damage on each of these Trandoshan hunters. So that's 1 here, and then a total of 5 here on this hunter. So that's it. Now, does he have line of sight to that? I forgot to mention that. He does. Figures do not block line of sight for themselves. So this Nexu does block line of sight if he wanted to attack one of these, but not for the thing because itself. So he didn't want to target this space closer because then blast wouldn't hit them. It's a little tricky. Okay, so he still has 1 more action, so let's go for another hit. He can do another blast if he does any damage. He doesn't do damage, he can't do blast. But, so it's another hit. Okay, so that's not going to be any damage because it's 2 damage. This surge gets evaded, so that gets wiped out. So we have 2 damage, but then this Nexu gets a defense block for each of those evades. So there's 2 blocking there. So it's no damage. And that's really unfortunate because you can't do blast. So no damage, no blast, no nothing. He spent his 2 actions, and he already did the maximum of movement, which is 2 strain for 2 movement. So that's the end of his turn. Okay. So what do the Imperial want to do? They certainly want to get some attacks. So if they attack with these, or if they take their actions, they won't get any attack. The most they can move is 4, and they'd just be blocked. The line of sight's blocked. They could move 8 and move here or something, but what does that do? That just gets them killed. So this is super tricky. What happens if... Okay, I think I have an idea here. If this one goes 1, 2, shoots around the corner, and then goes back, they have 4 movement total. 1, 2, shoots around the corner, goes back. This one can go 1, 2, shoot around the corner, go back. I think that's what they're going to do. Ah, yes, that one's stunned. Good point. So, ooh, that's really bad for him. So, why am I talking about even moving back? I mean, why don't they just go forward and attack? Partly because I want to avoid them just going here. They get good attacks. These guys get nothing. That's not good for the Imperials, and if they go back, then these guys at least could move here, get a shot with this guy out of the way. So let me state that again. I know I'm doing a lot of talking at the start of the scenario, but it's a super strategic scenario, just in my opinion, compared to a lot of the others. So the Transocean Hunters could move here, then the Rebels will just get a bunch of attacks and just kill them. And especially with this guy stunned, he wouldn't even get an attack. He would just get a move. But if they stay there, if they end up the turn there, then what are the Rebels going to do? They're probably going to have to kill this guy because he's in the way. Once this guy's out of the way, then the Stormtroopers can at least get a decent shot. So let's go with that. This is kind of tricky for solo play, as you can see, because I'm just kind of thinking, because as strategic, you try to think not only just, what am I going to do, get an attack. You also want to think about what are they going to do, and how can I best maximize my attacks and minimize my damage. So let's do that. Let's take the Trandoshan Hunter's turn. Unfortunately, this guy's not going to be able to go. This guy gets a benefit. Let me take a look. When attacking, if you are adjacent to the target, apply +2 to the results. +2 damage to the attack results. So ideally, he'd like to be here in order to get a good attack with the +2. And then maybe use his 4th movement point to go back here. So you get that adjacent bonus. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and do that. That leaves him open to attack, though, with these guys. There's only those 2 that can go, so let's do that anyway. Let's try it. So for him, he's going to probably do nothing because he's stunned. He can move. We'll think about that in a moment. So anyway, this Trandoshan Hunter is going to... I'm going to go back with the other plan and get not the +2. So he's going to move here, 1, 2. He's going to shoot around the corner. He has a line of sight. Now, even though it looks like he's right next to Diala, that's actually 2 spaces. Because you can't count spaces to a wall. You count 1, 2. So he doesn't have line of sight to him because Diala is blocking. So Diala is the only one he has line of sight to. Again, I want to go back, so that's why we're doing this. So that's what we're going to do. Well, when the Trandoshan Hunter attacks anyone within 3 spaces, that figure suffers 1 strain. So Diala is going to suffer a strain. And then the Trandoshan Hunter gets a green and a blue. And not getting that +2 is bad. If any of you have comments about these strategies, notice anything, I mean, I don't reading message boards and find out what all optimal strategies are. Just play the game, and feel free to put it in the comments. I'd be interested in seeing other strategies for this. But anyway, so Diala gets a white die on defense, and let's see what happens here. So that's an evade, and just 1 damage. So the evade knocks out the surge. Now they could use the experimental arms to take a damage and get the surge. What that would get them is either focus or bleeding or pierce 2. They don't need pierce because she doesn't have any block. They don't need bleeding because she's already bleeding. But that'll get them focused for next turn. Let's go ahead and do that. So they're going to use this, take 1 damage. I'm going to move him back where he was. And then he's now focused because of this surge. So the focus. So anyway, as far as the damage, it's just 1 damage. So there's 1 damage. Boy, that was pretty terrible for the Imperials because these are great attackers, and that's all they got because I didn't want to commit to moving them forward. So now what is this guy going to do? Maybe move back a little bit, give them a little bit of room to come in. So his first action he has to do is get rid of the stun. In the second action, let's just move back 1 and stick with that. So then when the rebels kill this, that'll give them an opening. Okay, so that's the end of the Trandoshan Hunters. Okay, so now either Shyla or Onar can go. They don't want to kill this because that'll give them attacks, so maybe they're not going to kill that at all, but they want to do something. 1, 2, 3, 4. Onar can move maybe right here and get a big time attack, well, a semi-big time attack there. That won't open it up to them coming and getting him. So maybe that's what they'll do. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it keeps this with the blocking of line of sight. That looks good to me. Alternatively, she can do that. I think it's the same. No real difference. Maybe they can both do that. So anyway, so it's Onar's turn. I'm going to go take his movement 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he's going to spend 1 strain to move an additional. And he's going to move down here. This 3 is with the Nexu. Okay, so now he's adjacent. He likes to be adjacent. Even though there's this dotted red line, that means you can't go from this space to that space, but you can shoot. It's not a problem, and they are adjacent from that standpoint. Okay, so he's adjacent, so he doesn't need to take any minus on his bodyguard rifle, a green and a red. The Trandoshan Hunter gets a black. And let's just go. Not good. So he gets 2 damage versus 2 block. There's a surge, but he doesn't have anything he can spend a surge on other than to get rid of his thing. So Onar, you did not do well that turn. But that's the end of his turn. So now everyone for the Imperial has gone except the Stormtroopers. Now they just can't wait until something opens up because it's their turn. So what do they want to do? Where do they want to go? They still want to hold back a little bit. They don't want to be right in the middle of the fray to get all the hits. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, let's move this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. I'm just moving back here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. They don't really want to be split up because they get that benefit when they're next to each other. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. There's a red dotted line there. So let's go here. 4. So that's a really terrible turn for the Imperial, but I just don't see any other way to do it with this configuration. Okay, so that was the Stormtrooper. Now Shyla is going to go. So let's focus on this one. He's focused, but he needs 6 more hits to die. So she's really not going to kill them. Now we don't have this issue of line of sight. because there's more mobility. It's next turn, the Nexu can hit and run and whatever, so we don't need to keep this one alive. So she's gonna go ahead and try to attack that. Question is, where does she want to go? She needs to be next to it to attack it. So 1, 2, 3. Let's do this. 1, 2, 3. She has 2 movement points left. She has 5 speed. Then she's going to attack, and then we'll figure out where to go from there. She has a chance of killing this. She doesn't have a chance of killing this. So she's going to use the ability of her Duelist Blade, which replaces 1 yellow die with a red die. So red is good because that's usually a lot of damage. Onar's roll notwithstanding. So the Nexu gets a white die. So let's go. Oh wow! So that's 4 damage. No blocking, no special abilities, nothing like that. So 4 damage will just kill it because it needs 6 to die. It already has 3. She still has a surge to spend, so this Nexu is gone. That was about the best roll possible because with that surge, oh, she doesn't have any strain that she can recover. So, oh well. She has 2 more movement points left, so she can't do anything with that surge. Where does she want to go? She doesn't want to be really in the thick of things too much. She can go... Who's going to go first next turn? Probably Onar. Let's get her close here, so yeah. So that's it. Okay, so that is the end of round 1. Nothing special happens at the end of round 1 with the exception. Let's go ahead and do this. The Imperials are going to use their agenda card, which says that keep this card secret. So I didn't know anything about it until now. And it says increase threat, play at the end of a round during the mission, any mission, increase threat by the threat level. Ooh, it's only 2. Let's do it anyway. So before this happens, procedurally, we need to increase by 2, which is the threat level. Round counter goes to 2. They can use an optional deployment for 2, but they're not going to do that because they don't have any good options to get. But they are going to use this card. Why on earth am I using this card with only 2 threat? Well, the answer is that with Jabba's Realm, they introduced a new rule, which is that you can only have no more than 4 agenda cards in play or in your hand. So you want to use them or you're going to lose them. I'm going to keep this one. I'm not going to use it for 2 threat. That's just too low. So that's where we are, and that's the status round. The last part of the status round I'm going to do is this I'm exhausting and all of that, and that is the end of round 2. Round 1, yeah. That was the end of round 1. So round 2 begins, and first is Onar, because he's right next to the one that's focused, and he's not going to kill it, but let's do the most we can. So let's go after that Trandoshan Hunter. So red and green against the black. Oh, look at that defense. So he's going to do no damage again because it's 2 against 3 block. So absolutely nothing. Nothing to do about it, but let's roll again. He could try to shoot one of these, try to kill it with 3 damage, but he's going to have to take a -1 on the damage, so he's not going to do that. He'll just do as much as he can. So against the Trandoshan Hunter again. Finally. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4 against 1, so that's 3 damage. Again, he can't do anything with Surge. So 4, so that's 3 damage. So that's a total of 5 on this Trandoshan Hunter. So unfortunately, the rebels didn't kill anything, so they're going to get their full attack. So the Trandoshan Hunters each have 5 damage on them. They're going to definitely want to take their turn. If they don't, if they let the Stormtroopers go, then the rebels can kill them before they take their turn. So Diala has the most damage, so typically I would focus on her, but she's already bleeding, and one of their effects is bleeding, that they like to do. So I don't think we're going to attack Diala. They don't want to attack Onar because he's immune to negative effects, such as bleeding. So, oh, I'm sorry, actually that's not Diala, this is Shyla. So Shyla looks like a prime target. already next to Shyla, and then this one just needs to move one to get next to it. So Diala's over here. This is Shyla. So poor Shyla, that's tough for you. So she's got a black on defense. This one gets a blue and a green, and he's focused, so he gets an additional green. So this is going to be a big attack.
Yes.
Yeah, against Shyla, she's got 12 health. See how it goes in. She'll be bleeding, and any other thing that they want to do that they don't have cleave or anything like that. So, so that's it. So just by announcing the attack, again, adjacent, that dotted red doesn't make a difference. By announcing the attack, Shyla takes 1 strain, and they get +2 on the attack because they're adjacent. So watch out. Oh, look at that block. So we've got 3 block for Shyla. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because of the bonus of being next to Shyla. So 6 minus 3 is 3, but we've got 2 surges. 1 surge is going to be for Pierce, 2. So that's 6 minus only 1. So we're talking about 5 damage, and we've got 1 surge remaining. Let's go with bleed. So that's 5 damage, right? 6 minus the 1. Got 2 Pierce and bleeding. So she's bleeding. They can use experimental arms to get another surge. All that would get them is focus for the next turn. They can't attack twice in a turn like the heroes, so that focus isn't going to do anything because he's going to be dead at the end of this, probably the end of this turn anyway. So let's not take the extra damage for the experimental arms for this one. So before I decide where he's going to go, I'm going to decide what he's going to do. So she's already bleeding, so it might be a benefit to 1, 2, 3, 4, and then attack Fen, get him bleeding. We don't want to do Onar because Onar doesn't bleed. Let's go ahead and do that. So that's what we'll do. So what does that mean he wants to do? Does he want to go out or stay around the area? Let's go somewhat out. 1, 2, 3, 4, and just kind of wait in the wings over there. As for this one, let's go in, attack Shyla, even though she's already bleeding. Let's get a whole lot of damage on her as much as possible, and then again go out. So that was 1 movement, and you get the +2 bonus of being adjacent. You don't get the extra green die like the other guy did, but it's still a good attack. Oh, announcing an attack within 3 spaces. The Trandoshan Hunter causes 1 strain on Shyla. That's a special ability on the card. Okay, so rolling for the attack. This time she only had 1 block. So this surge we don't need to use for bleeding, certainly. Could use for focus or for pierce. Let's go with pierce, do some damage. So that's 1, 2 minus nothing because of the pierce, so 2 damage. So that gives her a total of 7 so far. So she better do something to stop that. Anyway, so that's it for the Trandoshan Hunter. They could spend a surge, take a damage to get focused, but no point in that. So that was 1 movement, and then 2, 3, 4. Let's just go back here. So what's the benefit of waiting in the wings like this? Why do I want to do that? Because if I'm close up here, rebels get 2 attacks per turn. So they can just attack.
They don't have to move.
They don't even have to move. So if they go back there, then the rebels, they could move up and attack. So that would spend 1 of their actions. So that's really the goal here. Now, doesn't that get them out of the action for next turn? No, because then they can move in and attack. So let's try that strategy. Okay, so now it's the rebels' turn. Now the rebels, if they don't rest with Shyla, do something interesting with Shyla, then she might get wounded by all of these 3 next turn. So let's try to figure out. I just want to double check the scenario. If all the heroes are wounded, the heroes lose. So the Imperials really want to wound the enemies. So the rebels don't want them to be wounded. They'd rather have the damage spread out. So what are some options? Onar's already gone. Shyla can go in there and start attacking, but then she'll just get wounded next turn. Can she get 2 attacks? She can't really get 2 good attacks because she's bleeding and she won't have the strain for that. to move and then attack and so forth. So what if Fen goes 1, 2, 3, 4 and then shoots, and then the blast, that would be good. Oh, shoot this one. The blast would be good. But again, we've got Shyla being vulnerable. So options are for Shyla to use her 2 turns. You know what? There's no time limit in this one. I'm going to go with the Shyla save Shyla plan. Then she'll get 3 hits by those stormtroopers. No, let's go for an attacking, more of an offense plan. So that means Fen is going to go take a movement 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Why am I going there, not there? Because he has something called Lone Wolf, which gives him a benefit when he ends his turn not next to a friendly figure. So okay, so let's go there. This game is very strategic. That's one of the reasons I love it. So okay, so attacking well within range, attacking this stormtrooper. The others are out of line of sight. This blocks line of sight because of the solid red. Okay, so that's a green and a blue, and the stormtroopers have a black on defense. Oh, I should have gotten rid of this Nexu card. The Nexu's dead. Okay, so attacking this stormtrooper, hopefully killing one of them, so at least that's less attacks on Shyla. Fewer attacks on Shyla. Okay, so attacking. That's not going to be so great. So it's 1, 2, and then the surge is going to be used for +1, so that's 3 against 1, so 2 against the stormtrooper. And then he will activate blast. That takes a strain and 1 on the adjacent stormtroopers. So they each have 1. So he did 4 damage, but didn't kill anybody. So that means they're going to get their 3 full attacks. Okay, it's the end of his turn. He did his 4 movement. Lone Wolf will get rid of one of the strain because he's not next to one of his companions there. So that's the end of his turn. Now the stormtroopers are going to go. So guess who they're going to attack? Guessing is not needed here. So 1, 2, 3. So this one's already within range of Shyla of automatically hitting, and so that's what we're going to do. So it's a green and a blue, and Shyla has a black on defense. So she's still bleeding, but that hasn't come up yet. Hasn't been her turn. Oh, that's a lot of damage. So it's that block is terrible, so it doesn't do anything. That evade rather. So it's would be 3 damage, but they have the ability to re-roll because they're next to their another friendly trooper. So they're going to re-roll this one that only had 1 damage on it. So that's 2 damage. So that's a total of 4 damage for Shyla. So guess what, Shyla? You are about to be wounded. So 1 more point, and that will wound Shyla. So this one can move now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you know what? Let's 1, 2, 3. Let's go here. Kind of protect these hunters. Is there a disadvantage to that, though? Go there. They're going to have to kill them. So I think that's fine. I think that works out. So he's going to go there with his 2 damage tokens. So now we need to stay next to. So now this one's going to move here 1 and then shoot Shyla. I think it's pretty automatic, well, unless she gets like a 3 block. But so shooting Shyla. So that's 3 versus the 2 block. That's 1 damage. They could re-roll, but there's no point because that's enough to wound her. So that's 1 damage. That gets her up to 12. So she is wounded. 1 out of 4. The Imperials have succeeded in that. So she keeps the strain tokens and the bleeding, but she flips over. So okay, so that was his first part of his turn. So now, who is this one going to go after? Before I decide where to move him, I want to decide where he's going to go because I want him to get the benefit of the adjacency. So let's go after Fen. So that means this one can move 1, 2, 3. and goes here. This one's going to take his turn 1, 2, 3 and go ahead and attack Finn. Or do I want to go there in case they want to move up here? No, this is good. This completely protects the hunters, and that way they're going to get their turn next turn. Why is that important? Because they're just so darn good at attacking. So we want to get maximized number of attacks. So that's why I'm kind of boxing up over here, so blocking rather. Okay, so that was the Stormtrooper. So now we've still got Shyla to go.
To attack Finn.
Oh, thank you. I forgot to attack Finn. Okay, there we go. Thank you. So, okay, so Finn is a black die, and they've got the adjacency bonus, so they can reroll. So that's good. Yeah, don't miss out on attacks. So we've got this. We're going to reroll this die, which just had 1 damage on it. So it's a damage and a surge. So that's we're going to use that surge for a damage. So that's 4 against 2. So that's 2 damage on Finn. And that's it. Okay, now the Stormtroopers are done. So Diala and Shyla. So now Shyla, with regard to damage, doesn't care. I mean, she doesn't want to get knocked out completely, but we know that the Imperials are going to be focusing on wounding these because that's how they win the scenario, rather than spending a lot of damage on Shyla. So Shyla is just like, okay, whatever, I don't care, I'm just going after whatever I can go after. So is it Shyla that wants to go or Diala? They're both bleeding. Okay, if Diala gets rid of the bleeding, they really want to be attacking these. They don't want to be worrying about the bleeding or anything else. Let's have Shyla go first because she doesn't care about her bleeding. So let's go. It's kind of tricky. She can get 2 attacks on this, or okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to use a movement point for strain. That gets her up to her maximum strain, so she can't do that anymore. She's going to use her Duelist Blade ability to attack this Stormtrooper. So it's a red and a green. So that's pretty likely to do the 2 damage, but hey, you never know. So this is her first action, even though she did the move using the strain. That doesn't count as an action. That's enough. So that's 5 damage against 1 that just knocks him clear out of there. So he's out. So that attack was an action, and so therefore the bleeding kicks in, and she takes 1 what would be strain, but because she's maxed out on strain, she takes a damage. So she says, I don't care. So now it's still her turn for her second activity. She can't get an attack in right now because she can't use strain to move here to get an attack. She has to be adjacent. She can't do that. She can't even use her special ability because that requires strain. She doesn't have any strain to give. So she could just use a movement, but that's no point. So she's going to get rid of this bleeding. She's going to, that's an action she's going to take to get rid of the bleeding. I could have gotten rid of the bleeding to start with, but that probably would have been better. But hey, you know, that's what happens. I think I wanted to get 2 attacks. That's what it was. I wanted to make sure to move. Oh, she can't move that. She cannot move that. Okay, I need to go backwards. I'm noticing that this is an impassable terrain. I should have seen this earlier. So let's go back. We're going to do a repair on a broken roll here. So instead of using a strain, let's go back on the turn. She's still bleeding. She definitely wants to kill somebody. So she's going to use a movement. 1, 2, 3. Her movement's 4, so we might move her another. But okay, so 1, 2, 3. So movement gets her a strain because of the bleeding. And now she's going to attack. Let's go with the same dice. She killed this one because that's what I would have done. So I'm going to use her for her 4th movement action or activity. She's going to move up here. That'll leave an opening because I don't want to move her here because I want to leave an opening for Diala. Okay, so that repair is completed. Her turn is over. She needs to take another strain, and that was this one. So I had given her a point for the strain of the bleeding, and she started with 2 strain. The bleeding, all she did was move and attack. So the bleeding would give her this strain and then 1 damage. So we're set. So now it's Diala's turn. So Diala's bleeding. She does not want to take damage and strain and all of that because she's not wounded. But she definitely would like to kill one of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. She can probably kill one of those. Can either get rid of the bleeding, but then we don't get an attack. We need to get rid of we need to lower the number of enemies with the goal of trying to kill one of these before they get to go next turn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's her movement. She's going to attack the enemy, and that movement gives her a strain because of the bleeding. She's going to attack this one that has 2 damage on it to try to get an almost guaranteed kill. So it's a green and a yellow. And they get a black die on defense. She's adjacent to it, so she has line of sight. It's close. 1, 2 plus 1 surge gets another point. So that's 3 against 2, so that's 1 damage. That's just enough to kill it. She needed that because didn't want to waste the turn. So okay, so that was her attack. Her second activity, which gives her another strain due to the bleeding. So I don't know if that's the right strategy, but we wanted to thin the enemy. So okay, so that's her turn. So that is almost the end of round 1. Round 2, we just do the other things here, which is increase the threat dial, increase the turn dial. Now everybody's readied. So we just have one more thing to do this round, which is that the Imperial player has 4 to spend, 4 threat to spend. So do we want to get another Nexu? Or we could get, reaching over to these cards, see what we have in our open groups that I selected. A Jet Trooper. Jet Troopers are pretty good to do some damage. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's get some Jet Troopers. We don't want to have threat that's unspent. We want to get some good use out of it. So we're going to put the Jet Troopers, I think the corner is where they're allowed to go for deployment. That's correct. So I could have them go back here, actually. Why don't I do that? Because they can swoop in and get a decent attack anyway. They don't need to be nearby. And if they are nearby, they can just be attacked. And you know what? Back here even would be good because they'd have to go around. Well, let's just do that. They're mobile, so they can go over this impassable or blocking rather terrain without a problem. So that, and then the threat dial goes down to 0 because we used the 4th threat for them. And that is the end of round 2. Okay, for round 3, we've got a really good opportunity here for Fenn to get a couple of good shots. He can just stand there, shoot, and do the blast if he wants to, and so this is a good opportunity. So Fenn is going to attack with a green and blue, and defense is a black. I'm going to attack this one. He doesn't have line of sight to this, but he can do a good blast here. So attacking. Oh no, that's not going to work at all. So that was 2 damage. He could spend the surge to make it 3 damage, but we've got 3 blocking, and that means he can't even do blast because he's not doing any damage at all. So he's going to use this surge to get rid of a strain, at least do something. So that was terrible, but he's going to take another shot at it. So he's going to shoot that same one, Trandoshan Hunter, and hope to get 3 damage. That's what he needs. I think that's enough. So okay, so we've got 1 evade that gets rid of one of these surges. That was a good lucky roll this time. So it's 2 damage plus a leftover surge, which is another damage. So that's 3 damage, which is just enough to kill this Trandoshan Hunter. So that was clutch because they hit hard. So that Trandoshan Hunter is dead. We are going to activate the Havoc Shot, which is the blast. So that'll do 1 damage to each of these. Won't kill either one, but damage helps. So that's it for that. And that is Fenn's turn, unless he wants to use a strain to move somewhere, but I don't think he wants to do that. No. Lone Wolf doesn't apply because he's next to his allies there, so that's it for his turn. So now, normally what I would do is let the ones with 2 remaining go get their attacks, then they're going to die, you know, because probably these are all going to die this turn. Well, maybe not, but we've got a super hard-hitting Trandoshan Hunter that's just about to die, has 6 out of the 8 points that he would die. So he wants to get his turn, no matter what. So he's going to move up. I'll move this later. So move up, and then who does he want to attack? Let's see. If the options are Fenn or Diala. Diala's already bleeding. And Diala can't activate her good defense ability because she's all strained out. But I still would like to get Fenn to start bleeding. So let's go ahead and hit Fenn. Not Flynn. So that's a green and a blue. Fenn gets a black on defense. They get the +2 benefit. Oh, first, by announcing an attack within 3 spaces, Fenn takes the strain, which gets him up to his maximum strain. So then the attack, they get +2 because they're adjacent. So it's going to be a big hit. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for that ability, minus the 2 on the block. There's no strain though. I mean, there's no surge though. So that means, I was going to say, so that means no bleeding, but they're going to use the experimental arms. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So we've got 6 damage, these 4 plus the 2 extra, minus 2, so that's 4 damage. So let's get a 5, get rid of a 1. So he's at 6 out of 12. And then they're going to use the experimental arms, which states when attacking, you may apply 1 surge to the attack results. Then after the attack is resolved, you suffer 1 damage. So he is going to take 1 damage. That gets him to 7 out of 8, almost kills him. But the benefit is that we can use that surge for bleeding. And that's what we're going to have Fenn do. So bleeding. We've got almost everybody bleeding here, all the heroes. So that was, so that was 1 movement. And then he's going to go 1, 2, 3 to just try to stay away as much as possible. He's almost certainly going to die this turn, but that's how it goes. So that's it for the Trandoshan Hunters. Hunter now. So now the rebels go. So now, yes, they want to kill the Trandoshan Hunter before next turn, before they would get to go next turn. But let's try to kill somebody else before they can even go this turn. So what's a good way to do that? Fenn is already gone. Diala doesn't want to really go backward. Shyla can go backward. What is Shyla's deal here? Bleeding. So she doesn't have any strain she can give, so that's not a great option. Looks like it's going to be Onar to get just 1 hit. So we've got movement 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Onar is going to hit this jet trooper here. So Onar gets a green and a red and hopefully do 3 damage to kill it, because otherwise they're going to get their full attacks. Alternatively, someone can hit this to definitely kill it, or almost definitely, but no. So Onar, so he's done his movement, and now he's doing his bodyguard rifle. That'll do it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 damage. Minus 1 is 3. The surge doesn't do anything for him, so that kills one of these jet troopers. That was a lucky roll. Okay, he could spend strain to move, but no, not going to do. You know what? Let's go ahead. Spend 1 strain to move. He's been rolling these surges and not getting any benefit. He might as well do this. So that is the end of Onar's turn. So now the Imperials can either have their 1 jet trooper go or their 1 stormtrooper go. Let's have the stormtrooper go because he's only 1 point from death, and we want to make sure to at least get a hit. Yeah. There's really not much decision here, so either way it's fine. So who are we attacking? Fenn has 6 damage. That looks like a good candidate here to try to get him wounded eventually. So okay, so it's a blue and a green. They do not get their benefit of adjacency to another trooper. I mean, I could move this trooper over here and then he would get the adjacency, but then somebody else is going to kill him, so that wouldn't even do anything. Attacking Fenn. That's a lot of damage. So that's 1, 2, 3. Use the surge for a 4th damage. So 4 minus 1 is 3 damage. That was a big hit on Fen. 1, 2, 3. Fen is at 9 out of 12. So he hasn't moved yet. He's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's stay away from the blast because they each have 1 damage before they die. So let's just go way back here. Again, the farther away they are, the more the rebels would have to move to hit, so they can't get 2 attacks. So, okay, so Stormtrooper is done. So now we want to kill this one before this Jet Trooper before they get their attack, but they've got this blocking terrain that blocks line of sight and movement. So if they wanted to attack, they'd have to go backwards. You know what? Backwards doesn't matter because this is an unlimited time limit rounds, sort of a scenario. So we don't have to keep moving forward. So somebody can kind of go back. So I think Shyla's a good candidate because her bleeding is not going to be as impactful because, okay, she'll take some damage, but she's already wounded. So maybe that's what we'll do. Oh, but this one has 3 before dying, but she'll get a red die. So that has a chance there. The other option would be Diala going backwards. I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like that. So Shyla's going to go 1, 2 as just movement. Oh, let's get that bleeding. But, yep. So 1, 2 as movement's going to not be a very efficient turn. But that's because they placed the Jet Troopers back there. So Shyla is bleeding, so that movement gets a strain, but she's already strained out, so she's going to get damage. But she gets the attack. This is the whole point of it. So it's going to be a red and a green versus a black. Okay. No, not a good roll. The red die, when it gets the 1, that's bad. So 1, 2 damage plus a pierce or extra damage doesn't matter. So that's 3 damage against 2 blocks. So that's only 1 damage. So 1 damage on this Jet Trooper. And then Shyla's bleeding kicks in, takes another damage. We're going to have to do something about that. She still has 2 movement points left. I hate to waste it, but if she stays there...
That box.
What's that?
Pick up that box thing.
She can't do that with movement points. She'd have to use an activity. So yeah, about picking up the crate, it's good to pick these up, but right now we're going to worry about the enemies because we're getting too much damage here. If she stays there and this guy moves over there, the next turn she's going to be maybe without an attack. So let's have her just move back where she was. So that's the end of Shyla's turn. So now the Jet Trooper's going to go. Does he want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then maybe back here, but then Fen will get to hit him anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe let's go backwards. So who do we want to hit? Let's always start with that. So that's Fen. Fen is almost wounded. So let's go 1, 2. Again, this being mobile, the blocking doesn't matter. The enemies don't matter. Just flies right over them. So that's two movements so far. Going to attack Fen. So that's a blue and a green. Fen gets a black. Okay, it's important because Fen can get wounded here. If we've got 2 wounded. Oh, that's wounded. So we've got, that's 4 damage, minus 1 is 3, plus 9 is 12. That's his limit. So now Fen is wounded. Well, this might be a pretty short scenario. So, okay, so we flip this. Fen is wounded. Keep the bleeding. Keep... his endurance is only 3, so there's 4 strain tokens, so we just get rid of one of the strain tokens. That's the rules say. So now this one he gets 3 more movement because he gets an extra movement due to the attack on his card. So 1, 2, 3, or 3. Let's go 3 here. So that's it for the Jet Trooper. So this is getting pretty dire here. Diala is one of the 2 that are not wounded. She would like to do some resting, but she's bleeding, and then more importantly, we want to make sure this Trandoshan Hunter doesn't get a hit next turn. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. She's going to take her turn by getting rid of the bleeding first. Now, how is this different from Shyla? Why didn't we get rid of the bleeding with Shyla? Shyla doesn't really matter as much if she takes damage, because really the ones we want to protect are the ones that aren't wounded. Because that's the way to lose the scenario is everyone get wounded. And then she's actually just going to rest. That gets rid of all 5 of her strain tokens. And remember, the rebels go first in each round, so they're going to go first and kill that Trandoshan hunter. So that's her turn. And so the last things to do in the end of round 3 are to ready everybody. Again, I don't know the word for that. I need to look that up. Unexhaust, ready, untap, etc. So flip these. We advance the threat dial to the turn dial to 4. Actually, the turn dial doesn't really matter, but we'll do it anyway. So we've got 2 threat. Do they want to reinforce anyone? They can reinforce a jet trooper. Let's do that. So they can spend 2 of their threat, they're only 2 threat, to reinforce a jet trooper. And let's do that. And let's have it go there so that it can swoop in and attack. And since this scenario is kind of on a knife edge here, where it looks like the Imperials have a pretty decent shot at winning, they are going to use their Imperial informants, which gets shuffled back into the agenda deck. So I'm just going to put it on top because I always shuffle that anyway before drawing a card. So that's gone, and then that increases the threat up to 2. They can't spend that this turn because the optional deployment comes before end of round occurrences such as that. So at least that's my understanding of the rules. So anyway, so they've still got 2 in the bank, and the next turn they'll have 4, or next round they'll have 4. So that is the end of round 3. Round 4 presents some interesting strategy that, as a rebel, I would like to keep Diala and Onar, the only unwounded ones, keep them somewhat safe, a little bit not out forward and taking chances, because if they both get wounded, then that's the end of the scenario, losing. So that would imply that, maybe Fen wants to go first. The priority is getting rid of this Trandoshan hunter. That thing hits hard. We need to kill it. Only needs 1 point of damage. But Fen's good. Oh, Fen can't do Havoc Shot because of all of the strain. So that's what I'm going to do. What I was going to say is that I'm going to save Fen for doing this so that you can, hopefully kill 2 of them. But there's none of that. So, question: do we want to go ahead and shoot from here and then get 2 shots, or maybe even get rid of the bleeding if the first shot hits, or do we want to move and get a guaranteed hit? If we don't move, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 away, and if we get very unlucky and only get 3 accuracy, then it won't hit. He does have to use 1. He can use 1 surge for an accuracy, but that's using an important surge, and then also he might not get that surge. Let's chance it. Let's take a chance. So, okay, so it's and the benefit of this taking this chance that he might miss, is he gets 2 shots because he has 2 actions. He's got the bleeding, but so what? So go ahead and shoot. So that's a blue and a green, and the defense for the Trandoshan hunter is a black. We only need 1 damage, and we need at least 4 accuracy. So let's look at the accuracy first. Oh, okay, that worked out. It worked out. So the accuracy is only 3. 1 plus 2 is 3, but he's got 2 surges to spend. One of them he's going to spend on +1 accuracy for the infantry rifle. So, okay. So that's 4 accuracy. That's enough to hit. So now we've got 1 surge remaining. We only have 1 damage against 1 block, but that 1 surge remaining gives +1 to hit, +1 damage rather. That's enough to kill the Trandoshan hunter. So that was a lot. Okay. So that was the first attack. With that first attack, he takes a strain because he's bleeding. So that's a damage instead of a strain. And so now what he would like to do is shoot this one and then use Havoc Shot to kill not only this and this. Lucky rolls happen, these things. But he can't spend strain to use Havoc Shot. He cannot do Havoc Shot at all. So he's going to use his second action to get rid of the bleeding. And that's that. So now it would be the end of his turn. It is the end of his turn, so that's it. Okay, so got rid of the Trandoshan Hunter and got rid of the experimental arms for now until another unit is deployed and can get that. So now it's the Imperial's turn. So they can have the 2 go or the 1 go. Usually we like the 2 to go, but this one is only needs 1 damage to die. So I think I'm going to have him go. Who does he want to attack? Definitely Diala or Onar, but Onar's way back here. Diala's in front here. So let's go after Diala. Obviously the reason I want to do one of these two is because they're not wounded, and to win the scenario you need to wound the rebels. So 1, 2 movement. And then that gets within 3, which is the minimum of the accuracy, so accuracy is not a problem. And he gets the benefit of being next to a friendly trooper when attacking while adjacent to another friendly trooper. Doesn't have to be a stormtrooper. This jet trooper works. So attacking Diala, Diala gets a white die. So let's go with this. Okay, so we've got multiple die rolls here. So far we've got 3 damage against nothing, but he's going to re-roll this 1 damage die because I can get a better result. There's no downside. Oh, same thing. Okay, so 3 damage would be the thing, but she's got Foresight. I've mentioned before about how she has a defensive ability. Foresight says costs 1 strain. Remember, she rested earlier, so she doesn't have any strain. Use while defending to re-roll 1 defense die. Okay, so this is the time I do that. I usually don't use that, but when it's a blank, go ahead and use it. Can prevent some damage. Maybe get that X that stops all damage. Okay, well, it stops 1 damage. So there's 1 block. The evade there's nothing to evade. So that prevented 1 damage. So in 3 minus 1 is 2 damage. So she has 4, so now she has 6. Okay, so he's moved 2. Does he want to move back? Yeah, let's move back here. He knows he's going to die this turn, but, you know, these things happen. So make a move to do it. So Rebel's turn. Oh, the Stormtrooper went. So Rebel's turn. Who do they want to go? Shyla wants to get rid of her bleeding, so let's not have her go first. But then again, I take that back. She is going to go first. First thing she's going to do is get rid of the bleeding. Now, I've said that it doesn't matter if she takes more damage, but at some point they can just do 1 hit her and kill her, and then she's just completely out of the scenario. So we don't want that. So she's going to get rid of the bleeding first. Then she's going to do her second action, which is 4 speed. 1, 2, nope, wrong person. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then attack this one. She's going to use the duelist blade, so she gets the red die, which is usually beneficial. So she needs to do 2 damage to kill it before it even takes its turn. That's the ideal. That worked out great. So it's 3, 4 minus 1 is 3 damage. That's plenty to kill it. So it's gone. She also has a surge that she can spend on what she wants, and what she wants is to get rid of 1 of her strain. It couldn't hurt. So that was both of her activities. She could use strain to move, but she doesn't want to do that, so that's it for her turn. So now the Jet Trooper goes. He has no damage on him. Who does he want to attack? Diala or Onar. That's what it's going to be the rest of the scenario, I think. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4. That works. So 1, 2, 3 to get within the good range, accuracy range, to guarantee a hit. So it's blue and green against Diala's white. Okay, so that's 3 damage minus an evade, which doesn't do anything. Diala can spend a strain to re-roll this, but that's 3 damage. She's not going to do it. So that when she rests, she can cure herself of damage rather than strain. So 3 damage. 1, 2, 3. So it moved 3. It has 1 movement left. Let's just go back here. So that's it for the Jet Trooper. Okay, so now Diala and Onar can go. So Onar can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'm going to have Diala rest twice. Because, as I said, the only real way that the rebels lose is if Diala or Onar get wounded. So let's just prevent that from happening. We don't have a lot of enemies here, so we're not under the gun here. So, but let's have Onar go first. Might as well. He's going to go movement 1, 2, 3, 4. He's going to strain 1 to move 1 more, so he can get in the optimal range. And that means he's attacking this one that has no damage on it, which is fine, because if we don't kill it, the next turn Fen can go in there. No, he can't do the Havoc shot. Let's not take chances. Onar is going to use a second strain to move, so that's 2 strain this turn, and that way he's going to attack this one and pretty guarantee a kill. Sort of. So red and green against black die. Ooh, good thing he did. So it's 5 damage minus 3 block is 2 damage, and that kills it because it only had 1 remaining health. So that's it for that, and that is Onar's turn. I could have used the rush ability, but no, I like this. So okay, so that is it for that. Now Diala gets to go, and as I said, I'm just going to rest. So we've got 5 endurance, so that gets rid of this plus 4 damage, strain plus 4 damage, and the remaining, the other rest, second rest, is another 5, so she's cured. This being a scenario which does not have a round limit is huge. The strategy is just so different. If there's anything pressing us forward other than just, a couple threat every turn, then I would say, wait a minute, no, we need to keep moving. But no, we don't need to keep moving. Take our time. So that killed the last Stormtrooper. Get rid of that Stormtrooper. The last things for the round are to unexhaust, to ready, etc. Then we're going to adjust the threat dial back up to 4 and the round dial to 5. So the threat dial to 4. What deployment do we want to do? And I'm going to look in the book just in case I'm forgetting something. The first event happens when the first time the door opens. So the door hasn't opened yet, so nothing special happens. So what do they want to spend their 4th threat on? Okay, they could do a Nexu. Maybe a Nexu back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pounce. I like that. Okay, so a Nexu is going to show up, and it's going to be deployed back at this back green point, back near the entrance. So that's here. Okay. Oh, and use up the threat. And let's attach this experimental arms to the Nexu. I don't know quite how that would work, but that's the rules allow it. I'm pretty darn sure, so let's go with that. And that is the end of round 4. Round 5. So the rebels' priority is to avoid Diala and Onar getting hit. This Nexu back here, if Diala doesn't do something, the Nexu is going to zoom in there and attack Diala, so that's going to be the priority this turn for the rebels. So to that end, Diala is going to move out of there. She's going to just go way out of there, and then if the Nexu wants to go, he can attack somebody that's already wounded. It's not amazingly great for the rebels, but it's at least something that's not so bad. So Diala is going to go. On the other hand, that also means who's going to kill this Nexu. But no, this is good. We don't want Diala getting hit. So Diala is going to do a movement 1, 2, 3, 4, and use 1 strain to move. Actually, back here is good. Yeah, back here is good. She's got reach, so she can reach that trooper. So she used 1 strain for that. She's going to attack the trooper with precise strike, so that's using 2 strains so they don't get to roll a die. And she's got a green and a yellow. She might do the 3 damage just on this. She probably will, actually. Let's Let's hope for their sake. Oh, by far. So once that's 3 damage right there, and then going to use one of the surge for this to get rid of a strain. So that's it for this trooper, and that is it for her turn. Yeah, no other abilities or anything, so we're set there. So now we've just got, let's get rid of this jet trooper. We've got a Nexu, so let's see if he can even attack Shyla, because she's at least got more damage. Let's just see what happens. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then pounce 1, 2, 3. So she can, it can attack Shyla, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It might be beneficial to go backwards. That way it stays away from their attacks. I think that's what we're going to do. So make it difficult for the rebels. So 1, 2, can't move diagonal. So 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do that counting again. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to be next to him. And go ahead and attack with a green and a red. Probably going to have some bleeding here. Finn is a black die. That's a lot of damage. So it's 1, 2, 3, -1. So 2 damage with 2 surges. What do those surges do? One of them is pierce, one of them cleave. Doesn't make a difference here. So we've got 3 damage plus bleeding on Fenn. So 3 plus bleeding. And we don't need to use the experimental arms, so that's it for his turn. So what are they going to do? I think they're going to... Oh, he has 1 more movement point. Important. He's going to go back here. Why is that important? Because then now Shyla can't just go in and hit him without going all the way around. So what are the rebels going to do next? I don't think the rebels want to open this door yet, because we still have this Nexu. Next turn, or at the end of this turn, they're going to get 2 more threat for the Imperial, but that's not really much to deploy anything. Then the rebels can open the door. So how can we best use the turn to kill this Nexu? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can get Onar up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same thing for her. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shyla does have 1 endurance she can use. We're kind of going backward, but I think it's important. So let's do this. Let's have Fenn get rid of his bleeding and then do a shot. So it's a blue and a green against the white for the next. So let's see how much damage this does. And that will help us determine how many melee folks we need, or how many, between Onar and Shyla to go backwards. So Fenn's just going to shoot with his second action. Oh, nothing. Look at that. See, the Nexu got the X, and that's no damage. Oh, I should point out, we can use a surge for one of these strain, so at least get something out of the deal. Well, that was Fenn's turn, and that was a terrible turn. So we need to kill that Nexu now or at the start of next turn. So we need probably three attacks against it. So let's go ahead and have Shyla go 1, 2, 3, 4, and not use an endurance, because he can go 1, 2, 3. Oh, you know what? They're both going to have to use an endurance. You know what? He can go here and get a -1 on his attack. I think that's what we're going to do. So, anyway, getting back to this, she has 4 speed, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then she's going to attack. She can't just move here with that 4 because there's the impassable terrain. So she's going to get an attack again. Use her duelist blade. Get the red, green, and it has a white die, as we remember with that X. You better not get that X again. Okay, much better. So that's 3 damage. Unfortunately, the red die was just a 1, but what are you going to do? So 3 damage. And what is her... Oh, she doesn't have her ability that lets her recover strain, but it's only if she's not adjacent to a hostile figure anyway. So anyway, that doesn't apply. So I think that's the end of her turn. It is. So now it's just Onar. So question, do we want Onar 1, 2, 3, 4? You know what? 1, 2, 3, 4. One strain. Oh, I was going to have him go here. Okay, that's why. I was like, okay, where is he going to go? But I could have had her move here and then him move here, but that's, I'm going to call that unnecessary right now. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3. He still has one movement left, and he's going to shoot. He has line of sight through there, despite the impassable terrain doesn't affect line of sight. So he's going to shoot with a red and a green. He's going to activate his bodyguard rifle, which says when you declare an attack with this weapon, you may apply -1 damage and +2 accuracy to the attack results. He has to do that, otherwise he won't hit. So there's -1 damage, but hopefully there won't be any good blocking here, so we'll see. Okay, no good blocking, but not much of an attack. So it's 2 damage. Remember, he doesn't do anything with surge when on his attacks. So it's 2 damage, but it's -1 for that rifle effect, so it's just 1 damage. He does use the surge to get rid of a strain. He's just going to stay there, because next turn he might want to attack the Nexu. So that's it for Onar. And so at the end of round 5, we're just going to add threat, advance the round, ready everybody, and that is the end of round 5. So at the end of round 5, as the Imperial, I decided not to spend that 2 threat that we got because it would only get an Imperial officer. I do have one available, but that's not really worth doing now. They just die pretty quickly. So let's save that up. The priority here is to try to kill this Nexu before it gets any attack. So Shyla can get 2 attacks if needed. Let's do one at a time. So Shyla is going to attack this Nexu with using the ability of the Duelist Blade. So that's a red and a green against the white die. And she'll get a second attack if this one doesn't kill it. It only needs 2 more damage to die. So that's 3 damage, -1 is 2 damage, so that kills it. And she has a surge to spend. She's going to get rid of one of her strain. So that does kill the Nexu, so that was good. And so this card is gone. Experimental Arms is just waiting to be attached to somebody that's redeployed. So she has another action. She's just going to move. 1, 2, 3, 4 is her speed, and that's sufficient. Okay, so that was Shyla. So now we're going to have Onar. The terminal, what happens is you interact with the terminal, and if you're successful on a test of either strength or technical, you just need 1 success, then you are then that opens this door. So looking at the cards, Onar has the best shot at that. Onar and Diala, I'm sorry, not Diala, but Onar and Shyla, but Shyla was busy doing that other thing. It's kind of important. So Onar is going to go 1, 2, 3. No. Here. 1, 2, oops, 3. Go diagonal here. Get more towards that. And then he's going to interact with the terminal. He still has 1 movement point remaining, but we'll see if he uses that. So that is to test his strength, which is a blue, a yellow, and a yellow. And all he needs is 1 success. A success is determined by a surge. So as long as he has a surge on his roll, then he's successful in interacting with the terminal. Enough surges. I've got 2 surges there. So terminal's interacted with. The door opens. That's what the scenario says. Now, the Imperial player knows that when that door opens, we deploy the reserved Imperial officer and Stormtrooper group to the command room. So the command room is this room here. I'm going to move this just temporarily, this door. It's important that there's a door there, but just for now, so we can see it. So we've got, that's the reserve Imperial officer and Stormtrooper group. So we can do it anywhere in the command room, which is this room. Let's get the figures out. So where do we want them? Okay. As Imperial player, we probably want them as close as possible so that this turn they can just go in and start hitting Diala and Onar. They're the ones that are at risk, and they're the ones we want to get. So let's just put them right there. And then this guy can just go here as close as possible. 2, 3, so that works out. Let's actually go with him here, put him even closer. So it says deploy them to command room. That's what I just did. I'm going to put this door back just because I don't think they're blocking there, the camera. So he has, Onar has one more movement point. The question is, does he want to move in one more or move back or stay there? Someone's going to get hit 3 times by the stormtroopers and then once by that. Do we want it to be Onar or Diala? Diala has the good defense, but she has lower hit points. Let's progress things. Let's just go forward. Does that block him? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, that's a good spot. That allows Fen to move here and get some good shooting action there. Okay, so that's the end of Onar's turn. So he took his last movement point. So now we've got Imperial Officer Stormtrooper, easy Stormtrooper because that way they get their 3 attacks. So how do we maximize this so they get their bonuses being next to each other? The answer is he's going to move here, or is he going to move there? Let's move this one here. 1, 2, and then he's going to shoot Onar. So it's 3 away, so the range is good. It's a green and a blue. They get the reroll benefit, and Onar has no defense die, so we don't have to worry about that. Oh, I forgot to assign the experimental arms. Let's give those to the Stormtrooper. So now we've got an attack on Onar. Hold off the thing there, but that's a very good roll for them. It's 4 damage. They're going to use the experimental arms to get another point of damage, and they take a damage. That's 5 damage right there on Onar out of his 20. And this one takes a point of damage. So where is he going to move to? I'd like to move back to get it kind of out of range there. Let's do that. So 1, 2. So we moved 1, 2, and then 1, 2. He's going to move back here. Okay. So next is this one's going to move right here and attack Onar. Oops, I forgot to move this point of damage over here. So that would be 3 damage, but he's going to re-roll the die that was not so good for him. So 4 damage again, and guess what? Experimental arms, so that's 5 damage on Onar and 1 damage on the Stormtrooper. He's going to move just back here. Again, we want to get the benefit of the reroll. So that's the end of his turn. Then this one's going to go here, shoot. So the Rebel player's thinking, why did I move Onar forward? Well, they would have gone forward further and attacked Diala anyway. So, and these Stormtroopers do a lot of damage when they get their reroll and when they get good rolls to begin with. So we got a reroll on this one. Okay, so now we don't have to do the experimental arms because we got the 1 surge, and more surge doesn't matter. So that's 4 damage. So that's 4 damage on Onar. He's up to 14. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, but at least that's the end of their turn after they move. So he moved 1, 2, 3. Let's go back here. Okay, so that's it for the Stormtroopers. So now that leaves Fen pretty far out of the action. So we've got Diala and Fen that haven't gone yet. So we'd like to kill this Imperial officer because he hasn't gone yet, but he's got that benefit of the extra reroll on the white die. We'll see if that happens there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Fen can shoot around this corner, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 range is that's farther than I feel comfortable with. So what does that mean is going to happen? Can he stop this one from attacking Onar? The answer is no. No matter where he goes, he can't really block. So we'll just wait on him. We just won't do anything with him. So that means Diala's going to go, and she's okay with getting hit by this guy, with zooming forward, getting hit by this guy, because Onar is the one that's really at risk here. So it's Diala's turn. She has a choice. Oh, she can make it where he doesn't roll his die at all. That's a huge thing. See, I've been worried about attacking this Imperial officer because he gets to re-roll the white die whenever he's near somebody, and that means almost pretty much a 2/3 chance. I mean, a 1/3 chance of getting this to negate all damage. But she has a special ability, Precise Strike, that allows her to have the enemy not roll the die at all. So you can't re-roll what you don't roll. So that's what she's going to do. Okay, so she's got to move first. 1, 2, 3. That's a good start. Just go with 3 right now because she has reach. Her weapon has reach, so she can hit him. So she's going to do that. Use her Precise Strike. Costs 2 strain, but it's worth it. So attacking, she still has to do 3 damage though. Green and yellow. So she's got to hope to do 3 damage. 1 surge and 2 damage would be fine. That's good. Okay, that works. So it's 2 damage plus 3 surges. One of the surges we're going to use for +1, so that kills him. That's 3 damage. Whew. Okay, so that Imperial Officer, that ability of hers really comes into play as long as you have the strain to use it. Speaking of which, we're going to use one of these remaining surges to get rid of a strain. Might as well. She still has 1 movement point left. Does she want to use that? I don't see why not. So she's just gonna go here. So now it's Fenn's turn, and unfortunately he doesn't have anything good he can do. So he has movement of, oh, it's only 3 movement because he's wounded. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then next turn he can move up, maybe do a blast. We'll see what happens. So I think that's it. Oh, he gets that. Oh no, he doesn't get his benefit of Lone Wolf because he's wounded. So I'm not even going to look at that. We'll worry about this terminal later once these are dead again. No time limit on this scenario, so no need to rush. I want to get rid of the enemies. So to end round 6, this is a real long scenario. So that adds 2 threat. Roll the dial to round 7. Flip these. We have one last thing to do, which is use 4 deployment points. So where do we want to use deployment points? We definitely, threat points for deployment. We could get 2 more troopers or 1 more Nexu, but what are we going to be doing with these? We can deploy them back here. Doesn't do anything. Back here can kind of swoop here, but we don't want to attack Shyla because she's already wounded. We really want to attack Onar. So let's put the pressure on Onar. Let's put these troopers, these jet troopers, right here and here or here. I don't think it matters, but in case it does, let's put it here. So that uses up the 4. And let's get the jet troopers card, deployment card. So that puts it here. And they're still putting up a good fight. And Onar's getting pretty near. We're going to need to attack a bunch of them. So we'll see what we're going to do in round 7, because round 6 is over.